What's going on, folks? How you guys doing? Welcome back to my channel where you get to learn about leadership, communication, and networking. Today we will be looking at what's currently going on in Afghanistan and also President Biden's address of the issue. So far, it's crazy. Everything that's going on social media, on the website, on news, it's crazy over there. And I just want to take this moment to give God all the glory for the freedom that we enjoy here in the United States, and also take a moment to salute the soldiers that fight bravely to keep this country peaceful and to keep war from coming into this country. It's very important that we learn to appreciate these guys, okay? And also those people that keep us safe inside the country, okay? So I'm talking about those that fight crime within the border, within the confinement of the borders of this country. It's very important. I don't take none of these things for granted. I'm from Nigeria originally, and I'm here in the United States, and I know what things could be like, in times of chaos, when there is when there's a huge crisis, riots and all those things. When they go out of control, things just fall apart, and you see men doing things, you see women running around, you see children, running around, no idea of where their parents are or what they would do, or even if they would live to see the next day. Something like that is going on right now in Afghanistan, whereby we have the Taliban taking full control of the Afghanistan capital, the presidential villa, and the current president of Afghanistan flew the country. He said he did it just to save the country from bloodshed. And I want us to know exactly what's going on. So we would look at this. The source for this is ABC, and it's used for information purposes. So YouTube, please don't take it down. And ABC also got this from Al Jazeera. So we'll take a look at this. I'm going to share my screen, but we'll watch the full clip from ABC, and then we will also take a look at President Biden's speech. So let's do this. Hang on 1 second. Okay, 1 second.
The White House releasing this photo of the president being briefed on the developments on the ground. Helicopters and black smoke visible. American diplomats, including the ambassador, evacuated to the airport. At least 500 staff leaving the country so far. The embassy shuttered, the flag coming down. Secretary of State Blinken declaring to ABC's Jonathan Karl, this is manifestly not Saigon. These images from Al Jazeera claim to show Taliban fighters inside the presidential palace. Earlier today, the president of Afghanistan fled the country, saying he chose to avoid bloodshed. Thousands of Afghans now scrambling to get out. The Kabul airport packed earlier today. We have team coverage. ABC's Martha Raddatz, Rachel Scott standing by. But we begin with our senior foreign correspondent, Ian Pannell, who leads us off tonight from Kabul.
Tonight, the Taliban taking Kabul, Afghanistan's capital and last government stronghold. This footage from Al Jazeera purporting to show Taliban fighters inside the presidential palace declaring the Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan, marking the end of a 20-year experiment of democracy and the stunning completion of the militants' dramatic takeover, seizing nearly all of the country in just over a week. Earlier, there were skirmishes and panic at the city's airport. The Afghan president, Ashraf Ghani, fleeing as the Taliban closed in, saying in a Facebook message he wanted to save Kabul from bloodshed. Smoke rising over the US embassy, Chinook helicopters taking off, evacuating US personnel from the country, and eerily reminiscent of the fall of Saigon.
This is manifestly not Saigon. The fact of the matter is this: we went to Afghanistan 20 years ago with one mission in mind, and that was to deal with the people who attacked us on 9/11. And that mission has been successful.
The Biden administration defending the U.S.
So there's something to pay attention to. Like the gentleman that just spoke right now, he said US went to Afghanistan to accomplish one mission to hold accountable those responsible for 9/11, which is understandable, and that mission is done, and that is why US is leaving Afghanistan. Because if you look at it this way, and I would urge you guys to try as much as possible to not be political about this issue. It's very mandatory. Look at it from a very commonsensical point of view, from a statistical point of view and from an objective point of view. In Afghanistan, the Taliban, for example, they came and they say they are declaring the Islamic Emirates of Afghanistan, which means they are not interested in democracy. And Biden administration pulled out the US forces from Afghanistan. And that is why a lot of people are saying the pulling out of the US armed forces from Afghanistan is what is leading to the Taliban now going out there and taking control of the capital. So a lot of my friends that are conservative are like, it's Biden's fault, it's the Democrats' fault for pulling them out. And a lot of people are like, well, like this gentleman now, like he just said, that we are done what we're doing over there in Afghanistan. That's why we pulled them out. So there are ways to look into this. Is this chaos, is it avoidable in any way? Without Biden pulling out the armed force, is this chaos avoidable? Or is the pulling out of the armed force, is it what's responsible? And should US be pulling out its armed force from Afghanistan when they feel like, okay, it's time to pull them out and focus on the United States security itself? There's so many ways to look at this thing, because sometimes even though there's no, or you're not fighting in this country, you still need to have information about them, because you never know what's going on. You never know where the plan of attack might come in. So you need to know what's going on. And I think keeping a military base there would provide necessary information, not to instigate any form of warfare, but would provide necessary information. And declaring that they no longer want democracy would lead to so many things, because there are, democracy gives room for equality, it gives room for fostering of education, it gives room for new ideas and new development. But the moment they don't want that, that means they're going back to the archaic way. And there's so many people that are benefiting from the democratic transcend, in this place, the women, the children, and even the men as well. But now all of this will be taken away, and this would lead to so many things. So this is just like to give a background idea of exactly what's happening over there in Afghanistan, and like what's the current situation, and then we will get to listen to what Joe Biden has to say about this.
US withdrawal from the country, but clearly caught off guard by the Taliban's rapid advance. Just today, President Biden sending more troops, a total of 6,000.
So remember, all of these troops were taken out, but now after this incident, he's sending in 6,000 troops to pull out the American diplomats over there, to pull out people to keep them safe, people that work in the embassy. But keep listening.
To hasten the emergency evacuation of the embassy and some Afghan visa applicants. Today, the flag removed, the doors shuttered, the US ambassador and all operations transferred to the airport for safety. Embassy staff told to destroy sensitive equipment and documents, especially those containing images of the American flag that could be used as propaganda. And on the streets of Kabul, fear and despair. All lines as residents scramble to withdraw their life savings, many saying the banks are simply running out of cash. And a desperate crush at the Pakistan border crossing as people try to flee. And chaos at the airport as thousands of Afghans desperate to get out. Just
Now, this is something to just pay attention to because we might have things good over here, but it's a very, very disturbing situation if you are on the other side, especially if you're in Afghanistan and you're the one struggling to get out of the country. It's a terrific situation. You know, you have like maybe let's assume it's like 5,000 people trying to get out. Okay, and there's one plane, and that plane can only take 100 people. Now, what would you do to be among the 100 people out of the 5,000 people on ground that's trying to get on that single plane? And that is why there was this image that was shown today of a man, several men actually, attaching themselves to the exterior aspect of an airplane. And the moment the plane took flight, one man fell to his death. It's a very horrific view. It's a very graphic view. It's a terrific situation. And I pray none of you watching this will ever find yourself in that kind of situation. But if anyone happens to find himself in this kind of situation, what would you do? Let's keep looking at the background.
5 weeks ago, this was President Biden, adamant that what we witnessed today wouldn't happen.
The likelihood there's going to be the Taliban overrunning everything and owning the whole country is highly unlikely.
But tonight, the worst predictions for Afghanistan's future coming true. In less than 3 months, the Taliban capturing control of nearly every major district outside Kabul. Just this morning, taking the city of Jalalabad before advancing on the capital. This video, released by the Taliban, claiming to show their forces being cheered by residents in the streets. And now the women, and especially the girls of Afghanistan, who've grown up in a country where they have freedom and rights, fearing all of that will be stripped away. This displaced school teacher says she watched girls being lashed by the Taliban just for wearing sandals.
Yeah, this is the most fearful aspect of it. You know, the disregard for human rights, the disregard for women, the disregard for women, children. It's one of the most fearful aspects of this thing because we strongly believe that everyone has equal rights and no one should trump another person's right as far as, you know, living within the confinement of a country is concerned. And that is why there's constitution. That is why there are things to fight for your rights. But the moment the Taliban comes in, they are installing a religious form of government. And that's why they are claiming the Islamic Emirate of Afghanistan. That's what they would rather have, which is a form or a system of oppressing women and women children.
Yet Miriam here, still defiant.
I'm not afraid of them. We are not the people who will, go back to the dark era. I'm a girl and I don't care about anyone. But what should I be scared of? This is my homeland, my land.
Her land, this country, now under Taliban rule. After 20 years of war, costing trillions of dollars and tens of thousands of lives. Tonight, so many questioning, what was this all for? And what will the future hold?
General McKenzie, the head of US Central Command, met with the Taliban in Doha today, telling them not to interfere with the US mission at the airport, warning that the US has the firepower to defend themselves while they work round the clock to get everyone out. Lindsay?
So much urgency as well as uncertainty. Ian, thank you.
Okay, so that's a little bit of the background, and then we will watch President Biden's press review today. Now, you remember the video, he made a prediction that this will never happen, and now it's happening. So we will listen to what he has to say to fight this and to eradicate this situation because this is alarming. So let's go in there and we'll hear that.
Place in the last week, and the steps we're taking to address the rapidly evolving events. My national security team and I have been closely monitoring the situation on the ground in Afghanistan and moving quickly to execute the plans we had put in place to respond to every constituency, including and contingency, including the rapid collapse we're seeing now. I'll speak more in a moment about the specific steps we're taking, but I want to remind.
So I want you guys to pay attention, and I don't want you to use the ears or the lens of being a conservative or a liberal to listen to what it has to do. Okay, listen to what it has to do and how he intends, or how his administration intends to tackle this. Enough of all this division amongst us or amongst people. Enough of this thing. We need to look for ways to work together and help this country improve and make the world a better place and all become progressive as individuals. I think that's the goal. We need to keep in mind that we have to be progressive as individuals. So listen to the goal, because I know a lot of people that are conservative that have been trashing him consistently because he makes and I know the points, I know the angle they're coming from, because yes, assuming it was Trump who had made a mistake like this, he would have been lynched all over media, mainstream media, social media. He would have been destroyed, but that's not the topic of discussion. Whatever has been done has been done. We need to start thinking of how can we move forward. And as far as that's the goal, then we can help each other become better. This is a country that's going through a huge amount of chaotic experience, and you got to at some point just leave politics out of everything and think of what's the way out of this, what's the solution to this, what's the way to make things work, politics aside. All right, so that is why I paused this, and I need you guys to carefully, meticulously pay attention to what he has to say.
Remind everyone how we got here and what America's interests are in Afghanistan. We went to Afghanistan almost 20 years ago with clear goals. Get those who attacked us on September 11th, 2001, and make sure al-Qaeda could not use Afghanistan as a base from which to attack us again. We did that. We severely degraded al-Qaeda in Afghanistan. We never gave up the hunt for Osama bin Laden, and we got him. That was a decade ago. Our mission in Afghanistan was never supposed to have been nation building. It was never supposed to be creating a unified, centralized democracy. Our only vital national interest in Afghanistan remains today what it has always been: preventing a terrorist attack on America's homeland.
Okay. Preventing a terrorist attack on American homeland. And in some cases, in order to achieve that, preventing a terrorist attack in American homeland, sometimes you need, and this is why the force, the armed force, the Secret Service, whatever, they have intelligence agencies who can, have informants outside countries to help prevent the attack from happening before it gets to the American doorstep. But that is kind of outside my scope. So we're going to keep listening to this.
I've argued for many years that our mission should be narrowly focused on counterterrorism, not counterinsurgency or nation building.
All right, so he's saying things here, okay? Mission is counterterrorism and not nation building, not counter nation building. And keep that in mind, okay?
That's why I opposed the surge when it was proposed in 2009 when I was vice president. And that's why as president, I'm adamant we focus on the threats we face today in 2021, not yesterday's threats. Today, the terrorist threat has metastasized well beyond Afghanistan. Al-Shabaab in Somalia, Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula, al-Nusra in Syria, ISIS attempting to create a caliphate in Syria and Iraq, and establishing affiliates in multiple countries in Africa and Asia. These threats warrant our attention and our resources. We conduct effective counterterrorism missions against terrorist groups in multiple countries. where we don't have permanent military presence. If necessary, we'll do the same in Afghanistan. We've developed counterterrorism over-the-horizon capability that will allow us to keep our eyes firmly fixed on the direct threats to the United States and the region, and act quickly and decisively if needed. When I came into office, I inherited a deal that President Trump negotiated with the Taliban. Under his agreement, U.S. forces would be out of Afghanistan by May 1, 2021, just a little over 3 months after I took office. U.S. forces had already drawn down during the agreement, or be prepared to go back to fighting the Taliban in the middle of the spring fighting season.
I'm going to reverse this because I muted my platform and I think it didn't record the audio. So I'm going to go back a little bit and do this all over again.
Keep our eyes firmly fixed on the direct threats to the United States and the region, and act quickly and decisively if needed. When I came into office, I inherited a deal that President Trump negotiated with the Taliban. Under his agreement.
Now, this is one thing that this administration does that I don't usually agree with, that I don't buy. And it's not the only one. This is something that I find disturbing. So when he comes and he's doing something and it's not working, they blame it on the previous administration. And this is something that needs to stop. No, it really needs to stop. But let's hear what he has to say.
U.S. forces would be out of Afghanistan by May 1, 2021, just a little over 3 months after I took office. U.S. forces had already drawn down during the Trump administration from roughly 15,500 American forces to 2,500 troops in country. And the Taliban was at its strongest militarily since 2001. The choice I had to make as your president was either to follow through on that agreement or be prepared to go back to fighting the Taliban in the middle of the spring fighting season. There would have been no ceasefire after May 1. There was no agreement protecting our forces after May 1. There was no status quo of stability without American casualties after May 1.
I just want to point this out that he is speaking strongly, because I've heard a lot of people say things like, Sleepy Joe, his brain is dead, this is not. I don't see none of those characteristics. And I think he's speaking firmly as it should, but let's keep listening.
There was only a cold reality of either following through on the agreement to withdraw our forces or escalating the conflict and sending thousands more American troops back into combat in Afghanistan, lurching into the third decade of conflict. I stand squarely behind my decision. After 20 years, I've learned the hard way that there was never a good time to withdraw U.S. forces. That's why we're still there. We were clear-eyed about the risk. We planned for every contingency, but I always promised the American people that I would be straight with you. The truth is, this did unfold more quickly than we had anticipated. So what's happened? Afghanistan political leaders gave up and fled the country. The Afghan military collapsed, sometime without trying to fight. If anything, the developments of the past week reinforced that ending U.S. military involvement in Afghanistan now was the right decision. American troops cannot and should not be fighting in a war and dying in a war that Afghan forces are not willing to fight for themselves. We spent over $1 trillion. We trained and equipped an Afghan military force with some 300,000 strong, incredibly well equipped, a force larger in size than the militaries of many of our NATO allies. We gave them every tool they could need. We paid their salaries, provided for the maintenance of their Air Force, something the Taliban doesn't have. Taliban does not have an Air Force. We provided close air support. We gave them every chance to determine their own future. We could not provide them was the will to fight for that future. There's some very brave and capable Afghan special forces units and soldiers. But if Afghanistan is unable to mount any real resistance to the Taliban now, there is no chance that 1 year, 1 more year, 5 more years, or 20 more years, the U.S. military boots on the ground would have made any difference. Here's what I believe to my core.
Yeah, he said something very significant, because this is something I've learned myself, and I believe every human being has learned it. And it's one of the things that we speak about when it comes to leadership, whereby we've spoken about personal leadership. You need to be able to lead yourself personally. Now, if you want to achieve something, you want to accomplish something, you need to be able to lead yourself to do it, because if you do it and people see you doing it, then people come and help you. And that's what it's saying, that if Afghanistan is not willing to fight their own battle, if you have all of the US Army in there, it won't make any difference, because the Afghanistan personally are not willing to fight their own battle. And we saw at the beginning, during the background, the president of Afghanistan, who is in Kabul, that's the capital of the country, left the country and said he was saving the country from bloodshed. He left the capital, he flew, or maybe ran away, and he said he's preventing bloodshed. So if you're not willing to fight your own battle, why should someone else fight your battle for you? And that is what he is saying. That's what Biden is saying right now, that Afghanistan, they have all this training, they've had this monetary support, they've had military support, they've had training, but they are lacking the will to fight. Okay, so that's something worth looking into. Now, if you have anything different from this, or you have a different information, feel free to comment below. Feel free to add a link below, and we'll check it out, and we'll see exactly what can be done, how we can balance things out, the pros and cons, and things like that. But let's keep going.
It is wrong to order American troops to step up when Afghanistan's own armed forces would not. The political leaders of Afghanistan were unable to come together for the good of their people, unable to negotiate for the future of their country when the chips were down. They would never have done so while U.S. troops remained in Afghanistan, bearing the brunt of the fighting for them. And our true strategic competitors, China and Russia, would love nothing more than the United States to continue to funnel billions of dollars in resources and attention into stabilizing Afghanistan indefinitely. When I hosted President Ghani and Chairman Abdullah at the White House in June, and again when I spoke by phone to Ghani in July, we had very frank conversations. We talked about how Afghanistan should prepare to fight their civil wars after the U.S. military departed, to clean up the corruption in government so the government could function for the Afghan people. We talked extensively about the need for Afghan leaders to unite politically. They fail to do any of that. I also urge them to engage in diplomacy, to seek a political settlement with the Taliban. This advice was flatly refused. Mr. Ghani insisted that the Afghan forces would fight. But obviously he was wrong. So I'm left again to ask of those who argue that we should stay. How many more generations of America's daughters and sons would you have me send to fight Afghanistan's civil war? And Afghan troops will not. How many more lives, American lives, is it worth? How many endless rows of headstones at Arlington National Cemetery? I'm clear on my answer. I will not repeat the mistakes we've made in the past. Mistake of staying and fighting indefinitely in a conflict that is not in the national interest of the United States, of doubling down on a civil war in a foreign country, of attempting to remake a country through the endless military deployments of US forces. Those are the mistakes we cannot continue to repeat because we have significant vital interest in the world that we cannot afford to ignore. I also want to acknowledge how painful this is to so many of us. The scenes we're seeing in Afghanistan, they're gut-wrenching, particularly for our veterans, our diplomats, humanitarian workers, for anyone who has spent time on the ground working to support the Afghan people, for those who have lost loved ones in Afghanistan, and for Americans who have fought and served in the country, serve our country in Afghanistan. This is deeply, deeply personal. It is for me as well. I've worked on these issues as long as anyone. I've been throughout Afghanistan during this war, while the war was going on, from Kabul to Kandahar to the Kunar Valley. I've traveled there on 4 different occasions. I met with the people. I've spoken to the leaders. I spent time with our troops. And I came to understand firsthand what was and was not possible in Afghanistan. So now we're focused on what is possible. We will continue to support the Afghan people. We will lead with our diplomacy, our international influence, and our humanitarian aid. We'll continue to push for regional diplomacy and engagement to prevent violence and instability. We'll continue to speak out for the basic rights of the Afghan people, of women and girls, just as we speak out all over the world. I've been clear, the human rights must be the center of our foreign policy, not the periphery. But the way to do it is not through endless military deployments. It's with our diplomacy, our economic tools, and rallying the world to join us. Let me lay out the current mission in Afghanistan. I was asked to authorize, and I did, 6,000 US troops to deploy to Afghanistan for the purpose of assisting in the departure of US and allied civilian personnel from Afghanistan, and to evacuate our Afghan allies and vulnerable Afghans to safety outside of Afghanistan. Our troops are working to secure the airfield and ensure continued operation of both the civilian and military flights. We're taking over air traffic control. We have safely shut down our embassy and transferred our diplomats. Our diplomatic presence is now consolidated at the airport as well. Over the coming days, we intend to transport out thousands of American citizens who've been living and working in Afghanistan. We'll also continue to support the safe departure of civilian personnel, the civilian personnel of our allies who are still serving in Afghanistan. Operation Allies Refugee, which I announced back in July, has already moved 2,000 Afghans who are eligible for special immigration visas and their families to the United States. In the coming days, the U.S. military will provide assistance to move more SIV eligible Afghans and their families out of Afghanistan. We're also expanding refugee access to cover other vulnerable Afghans who work for our embassy. U.S. non-governmental agencies or the U.S. non-governmental organizations and Afghans who otherwise are at great risk, and U.S. news agencies. I know there are concerns about why we did not begin evacuating Afghan civilians sooner. Part of the answer is some of the Afghans did not want to leave earlier, still hopeful for their country. And part of it because the Afghan government and its supporters discouraged us from organizing a mass exodus to avoid triggering, as they said, a crisis of confidence. American troops are performing this mission as professionally and as effectively as they always do, but it is not without risks. As we carry out this departure, we have made it clear to the Taliban, if they attack our personnel or disrupt our operation, the U.S. presence will be swift and the response will be swift and forceful. We will defend our people with devastating force if necessary. Our current military mission, we shortened time, limited in scope, and focused in its objectives. Get our people and our allies as safely as quickly as possible. And once we have completed this mission, we will conclude our military withdrawal. We will end America's longest war after 20 long years of bloodshed. The events we're seeing now are sadly proof that no amount of military force would ever deliver a stable, united, secure Afghanistan, as known in history as the graveyard of empires. What's happening now could just as easily happen 5 years ago or 15 years in the future. You have to be honest. Our mission in Afghanistan has taken many missteps, made many missteps over the past 2 decades. I'm now the 4th American president to preside over war in Afghanistan, 2 Democrats and 2 Republicans. I will not pass this responsibility on to a 5th president. I will not mislead the American people by claiming that just a little more time in Afghanistan will make all the difference. Nor will I shrink from my share of responsibility for where we are today and how we must move forward from here. I am President of the United States of America, and the buck stops with me. I'm deeply saddened by the facts we now face, but I do not regret my decision to end America's warfighting in Afghanistan and maintain a laser focus on our counterterrorism mission there and other parts of the world. Our mission to degrade the terrorist threat of al-Qaeda in Afghanistan and kill Osama bin Laden was a success. Our decades-long effort to overcome centuries of history and permanently change and remake Afghanistan was not, and I wrote and believed it never could be. I cannot and will not ask our troops to fight on endlessly in another country's civil war, taking casualties, suffering life-shattering injuries, leaving families broken by grief and loss. This is not in our national security interest. It is not what the American people want. It is not what our troops, who have sacrificed so much over the past 2 decades, deserve. I made a commitment to the American people when I ran for president that I would bring America's military involvement in Afghanistan to an end. While it's been hard and messy, and yes, far from perfect, I've honored that commitment. More importantly, I made a commitment to the brave men and women who serve this nation that I wasn't going to ask them to continue to risk their lives in a military action that should have ended long ago. Our leaders did that in Vietnam when I got here as a young man. I will not do it in Afghanistan. I know my decision will be criticized, but I would rather take all that criticism than pass this decision on to another president of the United States, yet another one, a 5th one. Because it's the right one, it's the right decision for our people, the right one for our brave service members who risk their lives serving our nation. And it's the right one for America. Thank you. May God protect our troops, our diplomats, and all brave Americans serving in harm's way.
All right, so it's not taking questions apparently, but that's not the focus. Okay, so you've heard him. First and foremost, the mission of America in Afghanistan, according to him, was a huge success, which was to get the Al-Qaeda accountable and also to get Osama bin Laden. So that was a huge success. And now the new mission is to get the Americans over there in Afghanistan and Afghanistan citizens who are helping Americans to safety as a new mission. And then he said he's not sending militaries. He's not sending American military to that. Now, that being said, I know a lot of people who would disagree with this, and he also said it will be criticized. But I want us to weigh in on what he said. And when you get the chance, you can go back and watch this video again. But weigh in on what he said. What he said has some meaning. And also the other side, what they would say is freedom comes at a price, which is very true. Freedom comes at a price. So even though we say America is the land of the free, that freedom, it comes at a price. So in my I believe we've seen why this thing is coming forth, the background of this whole situation, this whole Afghanistan incident, and the Taliban taking control of everything. And what they want an Islamic country. And we have seen the action that Biden will be taking. And his action is based on the fact that America has been there for 20 years. And we've put money into it. We've trained these people. We've educated these people. They have ammunitions, but they don't have the will to fight, which is a completely different thing. So let me know what you guys feel. Let me know what you guys think. I'd say we should focus on being progressive. We should focus on being progressive and not don't just come and say whatever he says is dumb, it's stupid. No, I'm not buying none of those things. I want constructive criticism to what he's saying, and also constructive contribution type of constructive alternative contribution to what he has just said. Because like I said, I have a lot of people who are conservative who are like, he should send more troops over there. But he's saying he's not sending more troops because he doesn't want more deaths. And he's thinking of, he's saying he's bringing Americans over there back to safety. Of course, in order to bring them back to safety, he has to send troops to get this done. But he's not sending troops to go and fight over there. But then imagine what could happen if we don't have troops helping the Afghanistan troop over there. Imagine what could happen, what could spill over, from what's going on, from this current chaos. Imagine the amount of things that could spill over. Now, do you think that America should help in stopping this chaos that's ensuing over there in Afghanistan? Or do you think America should just pull out its own people and just focus on building America and safety in America? Do you think what's going on over there in Afghanistan, in Kabul, Afghanistan capital, can spill over to, exterior countries, or even spill over to here in America? So I'd like to know your thoughts. I think the president has spoken, and I think he said some key things that people should pay attention to. And I also think that even though he's not giving the full solution that majority want to see or want to hear, there are still some things that he has said that's sensible and can be capitalized on. But then we need to also understand human safety, human rights needs to be ensured over there. So maybe because they say America is pulling out because they don't want to, the Afghanistan don't want to fight their battle. So maybe we'll find ways to, get them to fight their own battles, get the president, like if you're the president of a country and there's chaos and you're the first president to run away, you're saying you run away because of bloodshed. What kind of president are you? And I understand he's a human being too, but still, you're the president, and whatever you do is what the rest will do. because you're the leader of a country. So Afghanistan people need to fight this thing. And even there are videos of brave citizens, like the lady that was speaking. She was really brave. She spoke bravely. And she said she's not leaving the country. There are lots of people like that, you know, that are really brave, that they just don't know what to do or how to go about it, but they are willing to fight. So these things could be seen from multiple lenses. But at this point, we're just focusing on what Biden is doing, and Biden just said what he will be doing to get people out of there and to use diplomacy, push for economic tools, and rallying the world to join in calling for peace and democracy in Afghanistan, which at this point may not be supremely effective, but it could be a step towards ensuring peace over there. Until next time, when I'll be seeing you in my next video, my name is Dapo Ibrahim. If you're not yet subscribed to this channel, please don't forget to click the subscribe button, like this video, share this video, comment on this video, and be on the lookout for my next video. And if you haven't seen my other videos, I'm a filmmaker, by the way. I have a bunch of short films on my channel that you can take a look at. Feel free to go through my channel and take a look at my short films. And remember to always be your best self. Take care, everyone. Bye.